Jessica, I'd hate for the people on YouTube to have not seen my introduction. I'm happy to.
I know. Can you redo that, Stephen?
Yeah.
1 second, it's coming. Okay, it looks like we're live. Thanks. Sorry about that.
All right, so we'll approve the minutes again. Joey, can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I motion to approve the minutes.
And I'll make a second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Hey.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Any opposed? All right, great. So tonight we'll run very much like the night, the Thursday night that we met. We'll have presentations. We'll have Ken welcome them. They will have 12 minutes. That includes their presentation and questions. Once all the presentations are made, then we will start the scoring process. So we do have if we have some concerns about any of the organizations, we will go into closed session. And then we'll have a discussion about our funding recommendations, and that will be where we'll go. So does anyone have any questions on the process?
Question I would have is, as it states in number 5, adjourn to closed session, is that only as needed then?
That will be only as needed, yes, Mayor Frost.
So we don't go into closed session to talk about where we hit as far as the lines and things like that. I'm going off of former committees I've been on where we talk about merits of the applications and kind of to determine that baseline and how we go about funding. That's done openly.
Openly, we're just doing it if there's any health issues, any concerns with those things of the health of an organization, that kind of thing. So thank you for that clarification.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you again for being here tonight. And do we want to start presentations?
Sure, let me get them admitted. So we have Janelle joining us from the Family Support Center.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay, Jessica?
Right. We can hear you. Hi, Janelle. This is Ken with our combined commission. Just want to welcome you. Thank you for joining us today and taking the time to present. And I wanted to let you know that you have 12 minutes for your presentation. That includes the questions and answers at the end. And Jess will be giving you hand signals to give you a clue of how many minutes you have left. So please proceed when you're ready.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you guys so much for having me today. This program is incredible for myself as an executive director of the Family Support and Treatment Center, but also as a citizen of Orem and Utah County. And I'm so grateful for each of your willingness to participate in this process and the service that you're giving the community. This is such a different format, and there's probably some drawbacks, but there's also a really cool aspect of it in that I get to be in one of our play therapy rooms as I talk to you guys today. So I chose to come in here because I think this is sort of the heart of Family Support and Treatment Center, who we are and what we do generally and specifically with our request for this funding. Our request for these funds would be $30,000 for therapeutic services for children, teens, and adults who have experienced child abuse, neglect, or other traumatic situations. That is our mission here at Family Support and Treatment Center. We've had that mission and been a part of this community for almost 40 years, 37 years this year. And especially right now, I'm sure, as you guys are hearing in other great causes in our area trying to combat the effects of this pandemic, it is so needed for the residents of our area. We really believe that the impact on mental health, the impact on abuse is already significant and will be staggering as we start to see these ripple effects of the pandemic and the situations that it put people in over the last year and as we continue throughout this. So there are about about 10,000 victims of abuse in Utah last fiscal year. About 1,700 of those live in Utah County, which averages out to about 5 kids daily. We also have parents of kids with unresolved trauma who were victims of things themselves and who need support and need healing in order to parent in a better way to stop that cycle for their kids. And we really are here to provide support for kids as young as 18 months, for parents, for teens, for anyone who has been a victim of those types of traumatic events in their life. I really see these funds as serving kind of this 3-pillar purpose in our agency and for the community. The first is to provide these victims with access to great facilities. When you've experienced abuse or trauma at any age, it can be a really tough thing to heal from, to discuss, to feel comfortable and safe opening up about. And we really like and want Family Support and Treatment Center to be a place where we can facilitate that healing, especially for kids. Rooms like this, like a playroom with toys that are specifically chosen to be able to aid kids in confronting some of the things that have hurt them and providing them a space to gravitate toward hope and healing is so needed and so necessary. So at our facility, we have 4 play therapy rooms and a sand tray room. And these funds help us to maintain those spaces, to be able to make sure the toys aren't broken, that we have paints for kids to express themselves, to give them a place where they feel comfortable and safe and they can do what they are naturally prone to do, and that is gravitate toward wholeness and healing and hope. The other things that I think, the second thing that I think these funds really contribute to is helping to contribute to the pool of clinicians in our area. And these funds really help us to be able to have interns at our facility, to be able to utilize this awesome location that we have of being close to Utah Valley University and being close to Brigham Young University, and having interns here who are able to learn from our skilled clinicians. The clinicians that we have at this agency have a combined 100+ years of experience doing what they do. We have licensed clinical social workers. We have clinicians trained in play therapy, registered play therapists, and registered play therapist supervisors who can teach these skills of working with kids who've experienced abuse or trauma and allow that field to grow, so that as clinicians or interns come to our facility, they're able to use these rooms to gain incredible supervision with the staff that we currently have, and then contribute to the community. Whether they stay with us or not, they take that knowledge and that foundation with them. So I'm so grateful that we're able to contribute to the field and to the community, not just within our agency, but outside as those people move on in their career. And then finally, obviously, it allows us to provide just fantastic treatment for these victims who have gone through some of the most horrific things that you can imagine or experience in a lifetime. And for that, I always like to share a story, since I've been doing these presentations, and I wanted to share a story about a 10-year-old girl who was able to benefit from these funds in a previous year that we've worked with CDBG. So I'm just going to share from her therapist, her parent, and herself a little bit about her situation. And this was a 10-year-old girl having difficulties due to worry and past trauma and abuse. Before starting therapy, she said she was afraid. Her mother said she was afraid of everything and cried at night. She would run and hide when anyone came to the house. She wouldn't leave her mother's side. And every night she was having to sleep in her mom's room because of her nightmares and fears. She also had a lot of physical manifestations of this worry, like biting her nails, stomach pain, getting distracted at school, and difficulty with relationships with family and friends. And as this little girl came to therapy and was able to spend time in our play therapy rooms and with her, building a relationship with her therapist, her mom said she sleeps alone now. She's not afraid. She doesn't hide, and that she can be in a dark room and be okay, that she's so much happier and can express her emotions. And then these are her words directly from this 10-year-old girl when asked how therapy helped her. It helped me by stopping my nightmares. It also helped me to not bite my fingernails when I worry too much about things. It helped me to feel happier and get my sadness away. In therapy, I learned to behave more and love my family. I learned not to worry so much and concentrate on my life. I liked therapy because I got to be with my therapist and take my problems away. I got to do fun things and learned how to have my worries go away. Her mother said, "I'm so grateful for everything you've done." So thank you for the opportunity to be considered. Like I said, I know you'll hear from lots and lots of great causes. Thank you for a partnership that we've had in the past, and for the opportunity to share some of these things with you today. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you might have. Or I can just keep talking for 4 more minutes if you'd rather. I've got more stories that I could share. I just wanted to at least check in and make sure there's no questions before my time.
Maybe I missed this, but how many people directly benefit from this grant? And is this a sliding scale grant, or does this completely cover the cost for these people?
That is a great question, Sarah. So we would anticipate that a minimum of 45 people would be able to benefit from at least, again, a minimum of 650 sessions. It kind of depends whether you're working with kids or adults. Kids tend to be a little more resilient because of just brain development and the way trauma happens. And so it takes less sessions for them versus an adult. But the cost for the program versus the individuals that we serve, when you think about an average cost for a session of therapy being about $120 or $130, this is between one third and 1/2 the cost, closer to 1/3 of the cost that families would incur had they had to pay for these services themselves. It is a sliding scale, so it is based on HUD recommendations of income level and looking at the size of the household and the income level that they have. We found that participants engage more in their therapeutic process if they have some type of buy-in. So typically even if it's $5 a session, we've historically seen that is beneficial for them to contribute something. But we can be flexible and work with people all the way down to these funds covering the entire cost. Great question, thanks. Like I said, I think this really is at this point almost I think we're kind of seeing almost the tide coming in from the pandemic, if that makes sense, like an earthquake that happened out there, and all of a sudden it's starting to reach us. We did see people reaching out initially at first more heavily, but I just checked in with our front desk today actually about our wait list and the number of people that we have seeking services, and it is substantial enough that we are looking at, we could potentially hire 2 more full-time clinicians to handle the caseload. So I think as much as we can internally prioritize getting people access to services as quickly as we can, that's going to be one of our biggest focuses over the coming months, is trying to help people get in as quickly as possible rather than having to wait, as I'm sure we're not the only ones starting to see kind of this backlog of need.
Janelle, this is Julie Fulmer. I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to say thanks for all you're doing and for coming and presenting. So
Thank you, Julie. Thanks for having me again.
Awesome. Thanks, Janelle.
Thank you, Janelle.
Thank you. Is this my cue to hop off?
Yes, please.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Just didn't want to leave before I got you what you needed. So thank you all so much. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Okay, next we have Mila and Catherine joining us from United Way. Catherine is appearing under the name Nathan, but she promises that's not her name. Mila's still joining us.
All right, it looks like Mila and Catherine are both here.
Hello, Mila and Catherine. This is Ken Ransom with our Combined Commission. We want to thank you and welcome you for joining us. And thank you for taking the time to present to us tonight. I just wanted to let you know you have 12 minutes for your presentation. This will include questions and answers at the end. And Jess will give you hand signals and show you how many minutes you have left. So thank you again, and please proceed when you're ready.
Great, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Catherine Osborne. I assisted in putting together this proposal along with various other grant fundraising efforts for the South Franklin Community Center. And I am joined by my colleague, Mila Dutton, who is a member of our Everyday Support Team, which is one of the fundamental focus areas of United Way, and which the South Franklin Community Center and this expansion project falls under. She also provided assistance with this proposal, and we're here in place of Barbara Levitt, who heads up the Community Center Expansion Project and this grant. She was unable to join today because she is recovering from surgery. So I would like to provide a brief background about the South Franklin Community Center. You can't really talk about expanding this project without knowing about what we've already accomplished. So United Way identified the South Franklin neighborhood in Provo as a target high needs area in the early 2000s. This is one of Utah County's lowest income neighborhoods with a high poverty rate and low rates of education attainment. And the area is predominantly occupied by Spanish-speaking immigrant families. We established the South Franklin Community Center in 2006 in partnership with Provo City and other local organizations. And since then, we have steadily grown the programs that we offer there, as well as our relationships with local residents and partnerships with other service providers who have a vested interest in this community. The South Franklin Community Center really took off in 2016 when we established the South Franklin Neighborhood Partnership, which now has over 50 members, all consisting of local service providers. And they have really focused on understanding local needs and seamlessly referring families between one another to ensure that they receive needed support. Meanwhile, we've been working hard to grow our programs and social events to help families break down social isolation and gain skills that will bring concrete improvements in their lives. And notable among our 25 programs that we currently provide include a cultural adaptation class, health and job fairs, computer labs, a summer learning program, and a reading club for our elementary and middle school students, and art classes. And we also host quarterly social events. Only 3 years ago, we had under 300 participants at the community center, but with heightened concentration both internally and as an organization, and through our neighborhood partnership, we now have roughly 1,600 participants and anticipate growth this year up to 2,000 participants. So since 2006, in this roughly 15-year span, United Way has gained a lot of experience in how to build this type of grassroots community service in a high needs neighborhood. And we have a partnership referral system, community center classes and programs, as well as internal United Way programs to support residents, volunteer recruitment and training systems, and marketing practices. And we're also developing a database that will help us more effectively track participants, develop programs, and evaluate outcomes. With all of these fundamental tools in place, we're prepared to expand the community center model to other high needs areas of Utah County, and this is where CDBG funding comes into play. So currently, we plan to establish community centers, new community centers in Orem, as well as the general North and South County areas, which we intend to pinpoint through the early stages of this project. These areas are where local policy and education leaders, as well as service providers, have approached United Way, seeking us to help create some sort of service for their high needs neighborhoods. CDBG funding would act as seed money, enabling us to lay the groundwork to establish these new community centers. This fundamental groundwork will put us in position to then leverage foundation and corporate and other funding sources to run each center long-term. And with our current timeline, by 2030, we expect to serve 8,000 Utah County residents annually through our 4 fully functioning community centers. CDBG will assist with phase 1 of this project through this funding proposal. And in phase 1, we will create a community center implementation manual and training regime, which new community centers will be able to use as they implement community center in their areas. We will also expand and prepare existing supports of the South Franklin Community Center to take on clients from new high needs neighborhoods. And these include both internal United Way supports and community partnership support. We will also collaborate with city partners in these new areas to identify specific communities and prepare for establishing community centers in these areas. Ultimately, each community center will enable outcomes similar to those that we have achieved in South Franklin. Families will be able to build friendships, breaking down social isolation. Partners will collaborate in connecting families to community resources. Programs will provide education and skills. Locals will take ownership of programs, from contributing donations to even teaching classes, and existing relationships and trust will enable us to react quickly in crisis situations. Thank you, and we welcome any questions.
Does anyone have any questions?
You know what, I'm just, I guess this is a question. So it appears to me what you're trying to do here is just kind of make a turnkey operation based upon what you have to be able to pivot through different communities and offer similar services. Is that a good maybe characterization of what you're doing? Like you have an anchor location, but now we have a model, and we're going to take that model and we're going to duplicate it in other areas.
Yes.
And so in doing so, you kind of have a mothership of this facility in Provo as a great resource, and be able to pull off that and have, and take these models outside of that into other communities, but yet have maybe that one big facility as the sustaining factor of what you're trying to accomplish with this. Is this a new program? As far as what you're trying to accomplish, I guess I've not heard of it, and yet I don't know everything.
The South Franklin Community Center has been in Provo in the South Franklin neighborhood since 2006.
And so what you're trying to do that and move around, is that something that is new?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And just to add to that quickly, one of the main things I think one of the most important things about this model is that it engages people in the neighborhood in a very in building relationships with the service providers and with each other. And as Catherine said, to break down walls, and that's really key to this model.
Thank you.
I'm really interested in knowing if you've identified locations or sites for your 3 new community centers yet, and if you have, would you mind sharing?
Mila, you may be able to speak to this. I know that the North and South County areas have not been specifically identified. As far as Orem, Mila, do you recall? I think there was maybe. I'll let you take over.
Okay. Well, I know we've had discussions with Kenna and the office there in Orem. We haven't yet identified a specific neighborhood, but we are targeting marginalized populations, very low income, ethnic diversity. And so part of this planning grant is to actually identify where those centers will be established. And it will be in consult with local community leaders and government officials and your CDBG offices, et cetera. We do not want to presume or assume at this point. This is a beginning place to start that conversation or continue it.
Any other questions? All right, well, thank you. It's good to hear from you, Mila. Mila was the director of community action for several years in our community, so and retired and now works for United Way a little bit. So it's good to hear from you. All right, well, have a good evening, you two, and we'll move on from there.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Are we ahead of schedule again?
Nope, I just can't find the unmute button.
Okay.
Okay, so we have Brent Hutchinson and Karen Mccandless from Community Action. They're going to first talk to us about the Circles program.
Yeah, just a reminder that they have 3 separate applications. So in your application packet, just make sure you're looking at the right one that they're talking about if you want to review those materials. And there are bookmarks in the PDF to help you with that.
Hello, Karen and Brent. I'm Ken Ransom. On behalf of our commission, I want to welcome you today. Thank you for taking the time to present to us, and also let you know that you have 12 minutes for your presentation, and that will include questions and answers at the end. And Jess will give you hand signals to let you know how many minutes you have left. Thank you again, and we wish you good luck. Thanks.
All right, thank you. I just have a quick question. Since we have 3 applications, is it 12? Is it 12? Is it 12
per application? 12 per application.
Okay. Okay, great. We'll go ahead and we'll have Brent Hutchinson, who is our Circles Utah Valley coordinator. He's going to go first and talk about our first application.
All right. Well, thank you for letting me present to you today. As Karen said, my name is Brent Hutchinson. I'm the Circles Utah Valley coordinator at Community Action Services, and I manage the Circles program and provide support to our coaches and our other staff. And we're asking for $25,000 in CDBG funds to help support the salaries of our Circles coaches and staff. As part of community action, Circles provides an essential long-term solution to poverty that allows low-income families to thrive. And it helps them to move beyond managing just their immediate needs so that they can plan and have long-term stability. The mission of Circles is to inspire and equip families and communities to resolve poverty and to thrive. And Circles does that with 2 goals. 1, to help families get out of poverty, and 2, to remove barriers that keep people in poverty. We do all of this through relationship building, and our coaches are at the center of making that happen. Circles teaches low-income participants, who we call circle leaders, valuable new skills to manage their finances, to understand soft skills, and the hidden rules that help them to become successful in navigating the job market so that they can get better opportunities. They also build a strong social network with middle and upper income volunteers, who we call allies. And these allies befriend them and point them to opportunities and resources that they normally wouldn't know about or have access to. Through all of this, our circle leaders develop really crucial relationship building skills that help them to thrive and to maintain stability. At the moment, we have 30 participants who've completed 12 weeks of their training and are now leading their own way towards stability. 11 more are signed up to begin our program next week. And we also have 45 allies and 22 other volunteers to surround our circle leaders with a strong community of support. The efforts of circles really are working. Our circle leaders see their income rise an average of about 71% after 18 months. This means that a family of 4 who's surviving on $20,000 per year when they started would be earning over $34,000 at the 18-month mark. And they graduate from our initiative when their income reaches or exceeds 200% of the federal poverty guidelines. In addition, 39% of our families have decreased debt in their use of assistance. 54% are no longer on assistance at all. And so, as I said, this grant would help support our coaches and staff who are critical for ensuring the success of our initiative. The coaches facilitate the 12-week training course and are there each day rooting for our circle leaders' success. They keep our circle leaders accountable. They help point them to needed services in the community. And they also ensure that allies are supported in their role as volunteers and that they have a meaningful experience. Through all of this, our coaches help circles participants to open up, to develop trust, and become more confident as they make progress in our program. One particular example of this was from Lucy, one of our coaches, who related to me an experience talking with her circle leader named Kathy. And Kathy had told her, before circles, I just kept hearing from everyone, no, we can't help you here, or no, we can't help you there. And she was totally closed off to other people. She said she was totally deflated. She hardly trusted anyone. And when Kathy first joined circles, she would sit through our weekly meetings and kind of just cry. She hardly had any optimism. But over time, she developed confidence. And now she's happy, she's upbeat. She's built trust with her allies. She's gained the courage to ask for a raise at her current job. And in addition, these past couple months, she's kept applying for new jobs. And just yesterday, finally got a job offer with benefits through Primary Children's Hospital. She's a totally different person. She's accepting help. She's developing trust and confidence. Another circle leader named Cody said that through circles, I've just learned new ways of doing things that I hadn't known before, like how to write an email, how to ask for a raise, how to have a good relationship with my family. It has been amazing to have this community of support. So those two examples just show how this long-term initiative builds people up. It surrounds them with a community of support. So we're asking to receive these $25,000, which will go towards our coaches and staff to ensure the success of this initiative. This funding is important for reducing coach and staff turnover which in turn increases the success of our circle leaders. So much of our circles initiative is based around relationships, the trust that they have with the coach, the trust that they have with our other staff. And our coaches are at the center of facilitating trust between allies, volunteers, and circle leaders. They also help raise awareness and raise the voices of these circle leaders so that they can speak out to the community. So with that, I want to thank you for this opportunity to meet with all of you, to present our program, and I thank you for considering our application. And with that, I turn the time over to any of you for questions, or to Karen if we're doing it that way. So,
how have things changed a lot? I know that I had helped like serving meals during some of your circles meetings before, and I know that they were much in-person meetings and like small groups and doing different trainings. How have you been able to deal through the COVID thing with different restrictions on being able to bring people together?
That's a great question. Thanks, Soraya. So we have moved, currently we're doing everything through Zoom, through online meetings. And for a while we tried doing things in person with limited in-person interaction, social distancing, and we eliminated the meals. We did see a downturn through the COVID, and engaging community was difficult. But our coaches and our staff we have 2 program assistants who help to facilitate volunteers their participation through the weekly meetings. And we were able to continue. I think we only had 2 people of our circle leaders who dropped off completely, which is great considering COVID. And we're again, as things are opening up more, we're again seeing an increase in participation. We're hoping to move back to in-person in April without meals. And then eventually around June, moving towards meals. Any other questions? I'm happy to answer.
Any other questions for Brett? Or Brent, sorry.
You're fine.
All right, well, thank you, Brent. We'll let Karen go on to the next one then.
Great, thank you.
Right, thank you, Brent.
Hey, Brent.
All right, glad to be here. I wish we could be in person. I've had the opportunity to visit with you, many of you in person, and I'm excited to be here and tell you about some of the programs that we have at Community Action and to talk about 2 other applications that we have. I think most of you are familiar with Community Action Services and Food Bank, but I just want to tell you a little bit about them just as a refresher. Been around since 1967, so they're just a little bit younger than me. And so we serve Wasatch, Summit, and Utah counties. And our mission is to foster self-reliance in individuals, families, and the community. And so what we do is we have different programs that we can support families from. We help people who are experiencing homelessness clear up to people who want to purchase their first home. And so we have community gardens. We have a commercial kitchen where low-income entrepreneurs can go and start their businesses. And that was something that was actually funded through Provo CDBG a number of years ago. And 2 of we have a lot of graduates, we have a lot of people who use it for farmers markets and things like that. But 2 graduates, I would say, are Chip Cookies and Time Travelers Bakery. If you're familiar with either one of those organizations, those businesses, they started in our commercial kitchen. We also have the homebuyer education, free homebuyer education classes, and we have financial learning, financial counseling. We have 2 individuals who do housing counseling and financial learning. We're a HUD certified housing counseling agency. Right now, probably the biggest project we're working on is working with the state of Utah and Utah County for rent assistance. Oh, Jess, what I'm going to do is, if it's okay, I would just like to combine all my time. I'm going to talk about,
that's fine,
just kind of work it all into one, if that's okay.
Totally fine. I'll add that up.
Start and stop if that's okay. But we're working with the Utah County and the state of Utah to help fund or help get the rent assistance money out that is here. Right now we have about $19 million that Utah County received to help Utah County residents. And so we want to work on getting that. And that actually started today as far as the state opening its portal. And so I haven't heard a report on what's happened yet. As you can tell, I'm working at home right now. So, but I look forward to partnering, with Mountain Land as far as outreach and some other organizations in the area to get the word out on that as well. So we actually have two other applications that I'm just going to talk about briefly. These two applications are a bit different than the Circles one. We kind of started backwards, but we have programs that stabilize, and then we have programs like Circles that help move families permanently out of poverty. So the first application I just want to talk about is our homeless or housing services application. Let me make sure I get grab that here. I have both applications here. We requested $30,000 for that. And just want to tell you what that money we're planning on using that money for. We have several dozen different funding sources, and they all have very specific requirements. So some, for example, with emergency rent assistance, we can charge staff time and things like that to that particular grant. And so we don't need CDBG money to help with the emergency rent assistance, for example. But we have some other programs that don't have case management included in there in what we can do in the scope of work. And so we do have folks who are experiencing homelessness or are precariously housed, we don't have funding to help them, or we have very little funding to help them, support them as they find housing. We may have money to actually, provide for the rent or something like that, but we don't have money to help with the case management. And so this request is to help support that part of the program for those who maybe don't fit into those other categories. Last year, we received $5,000 from the CDBG committee and from the region, and we appreciate that for this program. We also received $5,000 for Circles. And just as you probably go through the deliberations, you may see that we have not submitted information, reimbursement information. And that's because we do have a number of funding sources and we're trying to juggle those around, but I will assure you that that funding will be spent by the end of the fiscal year. And excuse me. And just so you know that we are on track to spend that. It's just that we haven't turned in the reimbursements quite yet on that. So I didn't know if that would be a question that would come up, but I wanted to make sure I covered that. And so this money that we're asking for the housing is to help provide for staff for case management services for that. And case management meaning helping those find permanent housing, helping them find employment, helping them maybe with financial budgeting, things like that, just to help stabilize them. And our goal is a community action is to have them move permanently out of poverty. In our plan or model, we like that stabilization part, and we'd like to move as many as possible through that pipeline through our agency over to Circles, because Circles is truly the long-term permanent effect, permanent solution that we have. So that's pretty much sums up what with the housing services. When I submitted the application, we weren't quite sure how much and what type of other types of housing assistance would be available. And now we have a clear picture, and there's still a gap here. We do receive some money from the state of Utah to cover some of the same things, but we find that we could always use a bit more, because we're finding that those who are experiencing homelessness or are going to be homeless, that need doesn't ever seem to go away on that. Now, the second application that I'd like to talk about for a few minutes is our food bank. And if you're familiar with, if you were involved last year, we actually withdrew our application for the food pantry, for money for the food bank. And the reason was that we had just received a very, very large donation through Latter-day Saint Charities to help through the giving machines. And that was actually used to purchase the food and to use for food purchases. And this funding this year is to help with staff, to help with the staffing. What we're finding is that there are people coming from all over the county and to our pantry. And what we're trying to do is be more accessible to them. We're just this Saturday, a partner pantry, or we call it actually a community pantry. We're partnering with Springville Kiwanis Club and Mountain Land Head Start, and we're opening a pantry at Head Start in Springville. We're looking at doing that at some other Head Start locations. We're working with the Alpine School District to identify places where maybe those pantries could be located at schools or other buildings that they may have. We're also working with with churches as well to provide access to food, and also with the food, the access to the services that we provide, because we don't just provide the food. That's just one component of what we do. And so we're seeing that we're probably going to need more staffing to do that. There's a demand. One thing we're looking at doing right now, we're actively looking for space over in Saratoga Springs or West Lehigh, where we could bring a pantry, and we can also bring some of our services as well, especially with this rent assistance program. Community Action has contracted with the state of Utah, like I said, to help administer that. We would like to have case managers there to help people complete their applications, upload them, things like that, because there's a lot of technology that's involved with this process, and not all of our clients have access to that technology. But the food, we'd also have a food pantry there as well. So we have a plan to expand our presence in the community, and so we would like to have this funding to do that. Just in conclusion, you can see that we've asked 3 different applications. But before I worked at Community Action, I was familiar because I was an elected official. I was familiar with what they did, but I didn't realize the breadth of what they do. But we do so many different things, and I realize this money is something that's it's a precious commodity. And I realize that there are a lot of other organizations who are in need of this public service funding. So what I wanted to do was just talk to you about priorities. I know that you have some tough decisions to make, and we've asked for a significant amount of money, very large amount of money, but I wanted to just give you some information about the 3 applications. And just from my perspective as executive director and the one who's knee deep and higher in the budget, I think our top priority for CDBG funding would be Circles. Circles is an initiative that takes longer than just giving food to someone and immediately stabilizing them. It's a more difficult initiative because it takes a longer time, and because its cost per participant, it can be more difficult to fund. But we also find that it works. We find that it permanently changes lives, as Brent's stories talk about. So if I had to just, I hate to say this, if I had to just pick one, it would be Circles. And the second one would be the homeless services, the housing services, just because we will have some, and we may, will have funding gaps as far as helping those who are experiencing homelessness or about to experience homelessness. And it would be nice to have some money there. And then the third would be the food bank. And the food bank, we have, that's probably the easiest one to fundraise for, because everybody has a stomach and everybody thinks about food and hunger, and it's something that the community can really get behind, and we really appreciate all the donations. But what I wanted to do was just to give you that as far as my priorities would be. If you were to ask me that, and I don't know if you were going to ask me that, but I wanted to give you that information. So with that, are there any questions that you have for me about community action, about any of the programs we have, and about our current spending on our current CDBG, what we've done with past CDBG? I'd be happy to answer those.
I would just ask, I mean, with state funding, did you see an increase at all this year with state funding? There was a kind of a surplus that the legislature had to look at, and they thought we can be a little more generous in some of these things, especially if it was affecting homelessness, COVID, and all those related factors. Did you see an increase from the state legislature?
My answer is going to be a little yes, but it was the pass through from the federal government. The state legislature passed that through to us. So last year, for example, we received over $1 million to help with COVID rent assistance. It was called housing assistance, or HAP. We also received some funding from Utah County that was CARES money. So we received some different funding, all COVID related, but we also receive state funding anyway every year.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions for Karen? Well, thanks, Karen.
All right. Well, thank you. Good luck with your deliberations. I appreciate your service. And, you know, I don't know what the right format is. If you have any more questions, you can email me or let the Jessica, Dan, or Kenna know, and we'll get those answered for you. So thank you very much.
All right. Have a good night.
Thanks,
Thank
Ken.
you.
Okay, I have one of our people in the waiting room. I'm still waiting on one more before I let them in. So give me just a sec.
All right. Well, while Jess is waiting, does anyone have any questions up to this point? All right. We'll take a little break then.
Okay. So we're having Dr. Garch and Director Morris joining us now from the Community Rehabilitation Clinic.
Hi, Jess.
Hello.
How are you? Dr. Garg is going to be joining us hopefully shortly.
Vic, Dr. Moore.
Oh, she's there.
Hi,
She's
Vic.
there.
I'm here.
Okay, we're both
I
here.
was confused what she announced.
We're
I think
both
she was
here.
talking. Hi, Jess. You were still talking when I joined.
We're going to share our screen if that's okay for our presentation. Thank you all for allowing us to be with you today.
Yeah, before you begin, can I just welcome you officially on behalf of the commission? And just wanted to let you know that you have 12 minutes for your presentation, and that will include your questions. Jess will signal you with the minutes left. So thank you for presenting and joining us today. And please proceed when you're ready.
Thank you, Ken. We're going to go through these slides pretty fast, so we want to leave plenty of time for questions. Yeah, let's just move on to the second screen. One of the things that I wanted to share with you all is that we have received, great support from the partners with the CDBG consortium here of Orem City and Provo City and Utah County over the years, since we opened the clinic. And it's really made it possible for us to provide the care that we do to the underserved citizens of our community. But I just wanted to share with you to see, you can kind of see the growth over the 6 years that our evaluation visits, which are our new patients, going on down from year 1 to year 6, excuse me, and then overall visit totals. You can see those totals there, as well as clinician hours and volunteer hours, from not only students that are attending RMU, but students from BYU and UVU as well that have volunteered there. You can see the numbers were down just a little bit this past year because of the pandemic. And primarily that was due to us being kind of mandated to be closed for about a month and then gearing up for telehealth visits so we could still provide services to our patients. And then in the last half of this year, it's really gone back to a lot more in-clinic patients, and the numbers have really, really picked up. Go ahead to the second slide. If you look at the financial impact this has had to the community over the years, totaling, as you can see, that has increased each year as well. But we're nearing very close to $4 million of impact of 10 minutes left or what? Okay, of impact back into, to the community or to those that were underserved, what the cost would be if we were charging, Medicaid rates, as well as that includes the value of visits where we're getting our patients in and out 5 visits quicker than the national average. Go ahead, this next one, if you would. And just to show kind of where we're at in capacity wise, far as, and there's the 5 visits per patient, but our number of patients that we've scheduled into the CRC have been exceeding 100% far as what we have booked in. We don't always get those because there's a percentage of no-shows because of the patient population that we serve. But we're getting close to capacity. The capacity really is in the high 80s to low 90% of what we could do. So we're really utilizing the resources that we receive from, you guys very, very well. Next slide, please. I'll let Dr. Garg cover this one because it's a lot of what she's doing there at the clinic.
Thank you, Vic. Hello, everybody. My name is Hina Garg, and we're very excited to be here. We're very grateful that we have received funding in the past, and I won't take a lot of your time. However, I want to highlight a couple programs that are going on at the Community Rehabilitation Clinic at this time. I would consider them being slightly successful because we continue to receive referrals for both of those programs, not only from Provo or these specific cities nearby the clinic, but also from a little distance out. So from outside Provo or maybe some patients are from Salt Lake County and even north of Salt Lake County. There's a few patients that we are we are seeing at either of these programs at this point. So the first program that I wanted to highlight was the Multiple Sclerosis Physical Therapy and Wellness Center. The way this program works is any individual who is diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, I've listed that as MS, and reaches out to us or is referred to us. They go through an evaluation, and then they go through a series of treatments with us in physical therapy. Then they can choose to either go for self-wellness with monitoring with the physical therapist or come to supervised wellness. We have also implemented tele-wellness over the last 1 year, which has been extremely successful with these patients. We continue to grow. We have more than 55 individuals with MS within the state of Utah that are coming to the program pretty regularly. These are high quality services, which includes not only physical therapy, but also some health coaching and wellness. We go through a set of trainings, which is strength training, balance and gait training. And we provide a lot of educational resources and additional resources, which are more durable medical equipment. We have equipment at the clinic, if they're coming into the clinic, which is functional electrical stimulation, body weight support, and other high quality equipment. We also provide wheelchair evaluation. So I've been able to sit down with the ATP, which is assistive technology professionals, and go through wheelchair evaluations for our patients. These are very limited services that I recognize within the Utah County. So very highly valued by our patients. The next program is something that's on our minds for the last 1-ish year now, post-COVID. Patients are now called the long haulers, and I'm sure you've been familiar with that term now. It's not a medical term, but these are the patients who are having these persistent long-term symptoms after developing COVID. And even after having gone through those symptoms and recovering from those symptoms, certain lingering symptoms remain that limit them in their function as well as returning to work. So these are the patients that we're starting to see. Sometimes we see them as early as 2 weeks of COVID. Sometimes we're seeing them as late as 4 to 6 months out of that diagnosis of COVID. So again, these are pro bono physical therapy services for individuals with current or past diagnosis of COVID. And the therapy is a little bit different if you think about it, because this is more cardiopulmonary physical therapy versus neurological physical therapy like the MS. So now we have breathing and oxygenation, cough, and then we also go through a lot of health coaching again, strength and mobility training. So far we have more than 30 individuals with COVID that we've definitely seen and discharged. We are continuing to receive those referrals per week. And again, we've been a constant source for some education and further referral for them as they return to work. So
we better leave some time for questions, Hina.
Yes, and this is it. And in summary, Vic, did you want to go over how CRC has?
Yeah, we just have high volume. We have the financial impact, the high efficiency, and low PT utilization. We've been serving this community for quite some time, but we want to open this up to your questions. We didn't introduce ourselves, but there's who we are here at the end. But any questions that you'd have, we'd like to answer them right now.
We have 4 minutes. Excellent. Please ask us questions. We are here.
You might want to take that off your screen there, Hina.
Okay.
Quit sharing your screen. Yeah, there we go.
Any questions?
Hina, go ahead. Or you're the one that's asking if there's any questions. Thank you, Ken.
How are you feeling, Vic?
Better, much better.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
on the road to recovery now.
Oh, good.
Anything else we can tell you? The transition obviously in this past year has been kind of a difficult one. We had to develop a whole telehealth system, and we also were in the process. We changed all of our files from paper files to digital files, and that was quite a process too. But it's made it so much easier for our patients to log in to basically enroll at the clinic, if you will, to get as new patients or as ongoing patients. And it's helped them a lot. The one thing we really didn't touch on is our photo scores. They've continued to be above the national averages in almost every category, which is measuring the outcomes of the patient outcomes. And so we continue to be one of the, I guess, national examples of how a clinic should run of this type.
And I'd like to add simply that the clinic has expanded quite a bit because of your generous funding in the past. We've been able to add not only physical therapists, but physical therapy aides and receptionists and other admin roles. We have added specialties to the clinic. It's not only orthopedic. Now we have an orthopedic clinical specialist in the clinic too. We have a neuroclinical specialist. We have pelvic certifications. We have multiple specialties. We have EMG, which is electromyography testing, again, not freely available. So very specialized services at this point.
Yeah. One of the things that your support has done as well is I think it's helped us greatly obtain additional funding for the clinic. You guys were the example, and you guys are some of the first ones to support us, and that has led to many other avenues of support because of your strong support. So we greatly appreciate that.
Any questions that we can answer? Yes.
I have a comment. This is Mayor Frost from American Fork. I've been in this now for a couple of years. And I don't know why they keep asking me back, but I just really appreciate the fact that you keep coming back. And I can only imagine, you know, how difficult it might be to just continually looking for grants. And so I just applaud the efforts. Victor, I've seen your face a couple times back in here. And so it's a difficult thing for us to be in, to try to determine the greater needs and things like that. But I just have a great deal of respect for people that will keep coming back and for just to serve the greater good and those that can't, that don't have the resources for themselves. And so I hope you feel that sense of satisfaction no matter what happens here today. You just keep trying. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for your time. Jess, I think we're probably out of time, and we appreciate this opportunity to share our story with you and express our gratitude for the continuous support we've received from you over the years.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doctor. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, so next we have joining us Brent Crane from the Food and Care Coalition.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we can hear you, Brent. Thank you for joining us. I'm Ken Ransell on behalf of our commission. I want to welcome you. Thank you for taking the time to present to us this evening, and let you know you have 12 minutes for your presentation. And Jess will give you updates with their hand signals there how much time you have left. So thank you again, and please proceed when you're ready.
Okay, do you got the PowerPoint there, Jess or Jessica? Brent Crane, Executive Director, Friends of the Coalition, also known as Food and Care Coalition. Do I have the ability to toggle through, or is that something only the host has?
I think that's just Jessica who has that.
Okay, yeah, Jessica, if you can just tab through, I'll just say hit tab and we can go through. So this just kind of gives you the 3-year trend, similar to last year, just because 2016 or 17 was very similar to 2018. We've had about a 19% decrease in meals served. However, our housing units served have gone up correspondingly during that time, just a little over 11%. That's not much different from last year. Next slide. And this will just show you kind of the number of meals that we served in 2019. We received $20,000 from the conglomerate of Mountainland, Orem, and Provo City. We use that for our meal program. We serve anywhere between 70 to 110,000, I think is the highest we've ever served in terms of meals. This funding actually goes to fund one of our kitchen assistants. That individual helps direct volunteers, helps in food pickups. We receive pretty substantial, in fact, this last year with COVID, which I'll address here in a minute as well. We were treated just like a restaurant and by the health department. And so we had to adjust substantially in terms of how we administered our meals, how many people could eat inside, how many could eat outside, had to adjust for winter months as well. But we were very fortunate. We had Marvelous Catering and Qualtrics who sponsored many of our to-go meals throughout the COVID experience. And so I did not update that. We actually had more in donated food value last year just because a lot of it was not prepped on site by us, but was prepped by a catering company off site. So the value of that went up. But overall, this funding leverages our ability to connect with our community. We have over 400 unique donors that donate to our meal program alone. And we are the only meal site service for homeless individuals in Utah County. We very much appreciate our relationship with partners like Tabitha's Way and Community Action, who provide food bank services. But those are typically food resources that are going to our low-income housed community, not our now non-housed community, such as the homeless. Okay, next slide. And you can just kind of pop through these, Jessica. This just gives you the location of our facility, entryway. The next one is where all of our donations are received, and kind of what our current needs are. This is our self-rotating food pantry. We got a grant a number of years ago to be able to get this self-rotating shelving. And then we were able to get a grant that actually will replace our convection oven. Is almost 16 years old now. And we got a grant through the state and through a local corporate grant that we were able to get a new convection steam oven that will be installed in the next couple of weeks. The exciting thing about that, I know if you're not foodies or restaurants, you probably don't understand the excitement, but we can actually cook a turkey in 45 minutes. So it gives you the capability for us to scale meals, much better, even better than, the current equipment that we have. Go ahead. Next that's just our dining hall. We've actually since changed painting colors of that. It's actually kind of a white and brown tiled floor and a blue color, such as you see to the very left of the screen. But we serve 3 square meals a day, Monday through Sunday, with to-go sack lunches for some of our meals. We provide entertainment. Just this last week, we've had singers on site. We had a magician on site. And these are not paid for. These are all community members willing to donate their time and their skills to kind of bring about a more lively and more inviting sitting environment than just going in and looking at you in the face as you get stuff put on your tray. So go ahead. Next. We consider, and I've mentioned this to the committee, I know we've got some new committee members this year, but this is kind of a gateway service for us. This is the service that allows us to know who the homeless are and engage them. One of the things that we did this year is we actually hired a client customer service individual, and their sole job is to try to connect our clients who come in and they know very much about what meals are available and when they're available, but they're not aware of all the services that we provide, barbershop and laundry and shower services and housing, transitional housing and case management, as well as our partner services. We have 2 on-site permanent partners, which you'll see here in just a second. But we have a great relationship with our continuum of care network, excuse me. And this is our hygiene room that you're looking at now. We have every imaginable hygiene item that we distribute, which obviously leads to other services. So go ahead, next slide. Self-explanatory, I'll let you go to the next one as well. So laundry services, barbershop services, shower services. The next slide, we have Wasatch Behavioral Health. They changed their name this year as they combined with Utah County Substance Abuse. So as you'll see here in a minute, we've got some new partner space being built out that's going to take advantage of that. But COVID has obviously been an off year for our providers that come in from off-site, but we have, groups like the VA and DWS and Medicaid, Medicare providers that come in and do outreach to our clients because they often do not engage. Thanks, Jess. They often don't engage as well with the community. And so ours is kind of the first resource center that was built in Utah. And in fact, the 3 new centers up in Salt Lake were modeled much after our service delivery model. Go ahead, next. This is kind of an exciting development. We used to have a group called Share a Smile that was on site. And after Dr. Vogel passed away, who was kind of the inspiration behind that and the lifeblood behind that, we were able to work with Todd Bailey and Mountainland Community Health Center and remodel the dental clinic space. And so this is a state-of-the-art dental clinic now. One of our former dentists that worked with Dr. Vogel, Dr. Blackhurst, is our dentist, and he is there on Tuesdays. And then we have the School of Hygiene on Thursday. Go ahead, next. This is our residential wing. So we're now upstairs in the building. This is our, essentially where our residential stay clients, their kind of communal space. And the next slide will show you kind of our library. We have a resource library with games and videos and books and such. Go ahead, next. In fact, you can just go through the next couple slides. That's just the typical men's room. This is the site plan for our new project that is underway right now. These are, there's going to be a new partner building, which you don't see in this particular graphic, but there's also 6 new permanent supportive housing units that will service our homeless community here. You can go ahead and skip 2 forward. So in October, we were able to hold our groundbreaking. So that's what our yard looked before. And then obviously, as we've gone throughout the winter, the construction, site grubbing. Go ahead to the next slide. This slide on the far left, probably can't make it out maybe on your screen. I don't know if you can, but there's actually 4 foundations there, plus the construction that you see, the lumber construction there is actually of our partner building. And then the middle one is actually of one of the housing units. And the one to the far right is of our partner building. It's going to include a volunteer center for our clients to engage in volunteer service themselves and expand partnerships on site and also provide educational services on site in expansion in an expansion of what we already have. And I'm done and leave some time for questions. Okay, any questions from the group?
So if your meals had to go under other health department like restaurants, how did that COVID stuff affect the housing that you've got people coming in for housing and other services?
Yeah, so we're not a drop-in shelter. A lot of people mistake that. We're a transitional housing facility. So you have to make application. Once you're here, we've had about 6 COVID positive tests from our residents that lived upstairs, but we have designated COVID rooms. So once, because we have the medical provider on site, and we have been from very early on, even before it was recommended, we've been temperature testing all of our volunteers. We had to go away from volunteers for about 2 months, but relative to the housing question, which was your question specifically, Soraya, was that we actually just set aside COVID rooms and had medical checkup on them daily. And then we provided their meals at their door and they'd come pick it up.
So Brent, we've got 1 minute. I was on the COVID, the CARES Act for the county on that committee with a couple other mayors.
Yes.
Tell me, is this just scratching the surface of the homeless population? Is this making a dent in it? How widespread is this?
That's a great question. We see about 2,500 unduplicated clients a year, and that represents people that are lower income, that are housed, that are coming there to stretch their budget by coming there and eating, or still engaging with mental health services or other services we have. The CARES Act, we were able to get some money from the CARES Act through your committee. And that has put us in a position to, complete our project, which we're hoping to complete by the end of this year. We have about 200, to answer your question, 200 and 250 chronic homeless. This is going to put a substantial dent in it because we've got 38 units on site, plus we have 3 units off site. Plus, we're just building 72 new. So we've got about 120 units under our control.
Great.
Like I'm out of time.
Thank you, Brent.
So, and thank you to the group, because that was a godsend, because we lost money from the state legislature. They did reappropriate some this session, but not quite what we got between the two of you. But it put us in a position to start and hopefully finish the project soon.
Great.
Welcome anybody down for a tour anytime. More questions? Or you're going to cut me off, Jess? Okay.
You're out, Brent.
I'll leave. Sorry. I'll let you go on. Thanks, guys and gals.
Okay, so this is where we scheduled that dinner break because you guys wanted to have a break before we brought Centro Hispano in. They're our last group. They have 3 applications. Are we good for a dinner break?
I would say that I would like at least 10 minutes, but I don't need to have 40. I don't know what the dinner break was. Of course, I've been eating the whole time, people. Sorry.
I totally be up for a
another
shorter
30.
break and then returning so we can get done earlier tonight.
Okay, should we do 15 minutes then? 15?
Yeah, and then do we just need to contact them and have them move up their come on early?
Yeah, Jess has their contact info and told them to be on standby, so we'll reach out during the break.
Perfect. Awesome.
Okay, we'll see everyone back here at 6:16. I think everyone's out.
Yeah, and then you should be the host now, Jessica, so you can stop the feed.
Okay.